Hello everyone, my name is Elijah David, minister of the 12th Hour Apostolic Sabbatarian Congregation on the 12th hour. In the Liberty Hill, Texas, today is July 27, 2013, or it is the 20th day of Ab, 2017. We will start our first service on this 7th day Sabbath with a song entitled, More About Yahshua. More about Yahshua would I know, more of His grace to others show, more of His saving fullness see, more of His love who cared for me. More about Yahshua, more about Yahshua, more of His saving fullness see, more of His love who died for them. More about Yahshua let me learn, more of His holy will discern. Spirit of Yah, my teacher be, showing the things of Yahshua to me. More about Yahshua, more about Yahshua, more of His saving fullness see, more of His love who died for them. More about Yahshua in His word, holding communion with my Yah, hearing His voice in every line, making His faithful saying mine. More about Yahshua, more about Yahshua, more of His fullness fullness see, more of His love who cared for them. More about Yahshua on His throne, more enriched in all His own, more of His kingdom should increase, more of His coming Prince of Peace. More about Yahshua, more about Yahshua, more of His saving fullness see, more of His love who died for them. Start a new study tonight entitled The Leopard-like Beast. Right here he is. 10 horns, 10 crowns, 7 heads, all in charge of all churches. Composite of these first 4 beasts, the lion, the bear, the leopard, and the nondescript beast that Daniel showed to Nebuchadnezzar that he saw in his dream. This leopard-like beast comes out of the Dark Ages, 1798. He was during the Dark Ages, but he comes on. He's taken the lead from these two the face of these one beast here. This is represents the image of the beast during the Dark Ages, the Catholic Church in charge of it. Okay, Mystery Babylon no less. Leopard-like beast. Okay, it says that the nondescript beast of Daniel 7, representing Rome in its first stage, shows prophetically by his 10 horns that there were 10 kings to rise out of Rome. In its second stage, it is shown that the papacy was to arise, subdue 3 kings, here it is right here, leaving 7 horns on this papacy. Okay. And he shall wear out the saints of the Most High for the space of 1260 years. Okay. So this leopard-like beast run contemporary with this here second phase of this here fourth beast, 538 to 1798. They both run together, except this one continued on after 1798. into our day. But it says, but it tells not the fall of the Roman monarchy or the papacy. It is silent concerning the Reformation that came before or after 1798 AD. Therefore, the lack of information by the symbols of this beast must be found somewhere else in the prophetic word of Elohim. This must be sought in the book of the Revelation, and for it is a complement unto the Daniel's prophecies. Okay. Now, the leopard-like beast of Revelation 13, 1-10 is the only symbolical prophecy that tells of the fall of the Roman monarchy. Right here. The Roman monarchy started here at the cross, 31 AD. Passed on his baton to the second phase of him, 538 AD. Leopard-like beast, Revelation 13:1 to 10 is the only symbolical prophecy that tells of the fall of the Roman monarchy. The crowning of the 10 kings. Okay. This beast right here was in charge of these 10 kings, taken from the 10 horns on this beast here. The papacy came up, and the Pope, during the Dark Ages, moved up 3 of these 10 kings, took the place of 3 of them. But here comes the leopard-like beast emerging with all the 10 kings in control, that he's in control of. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. Revelation 13:1. Note this beast has the same number of the horns as a nondescript beast. 10, 10. Okay, now it says, in his first stage, Imperial Rome, Daniel says, the 10 horns on the beast representing Rome are the 10 kings that shall arise, Daniel 7:24. For the horn symbolizing the Roman world in its imperial shape, also pointed forward unto the time when the empire would be divided into 10 parts or kingdoms. Now this empire, the papacy, was divided into 10 kingdoms. She lost her civil power in 1500 AD when Martin Luther came out of her midst and broke her back and her power by revealing the doctrine of the righteous by faith in the blood of Yeshua. Has been the only way for man's salvation. Also pointed forward into the time when the empire would be divided into 10 parts or kingdom. In other words, while the horns primarily represented the Roman world in its imperial form, they secondarily denote the present world in its divided state sense. The fall of the Rome corresponding with the 10 toes on the great image of Daniel 2. The nondescript beast in his first stage has 10 horns. As in his second stage, the little horn came up, and 3 of the 10 were plucked up by the roots. But you notice that they can never be reinstated as kings. The horns being reduced to the biblical number 7 signified that the papacy was to have complete control or complete sway over the entire world as far as the Christian church is concerned. Therefore, the 10 horns on the leopard-like beast of Revelation 13:1, right here, cannot signify that the 3 uprooted ones have assumed their authority the second time. As the same number of the horns appear on each succeeding beast, namely the nondescript, Daniel 7:7, the leopard-like Revelation 13:1, and the scarlet-colored Revelation 17:3, representing the entire New Testament era. It is evident by the facts given that the number of the horns are intended to denote universal, as they are absent from the beast of the Revelation 13, 11, 18, what verifies the fact that the two-horned beast denotes a local system. Therefore, it is unquestionably clear that the fixed number of the horns, 10, are designed to universally symbolize the peoples and governments for the chart on page 84. Inasmuch as the lion, the bear, the four-headed leopard, and the nondescript beast, the symbols of the Babylon, Medo-Persia, Grecia, and Rome, are linked unto each other, the unmistakable chain of the beast makes it impossible for another universal beast system to intersect their consecutive order. Consequently, the leopard-like beast, Revelation 13, 1 and 9, must follow the nondescript beast, Rome. Okay. Revelation 13, 2 and 3. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and his great authority. That's Satan. Okay. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. For the composition of the beast reveals the fact that he is a descendant from the four beasts before him, the mouth of a lion, the feet of a bear, the body of a leopard, and the number of horns all point back unto his hereditary characteristics as descending from the Babylon, Medo-Persia, Grecia, and Rome. For this indisputable fact proves that it is as the fifth universal beast. The leopard-like beast arises out of the sea in the same manner as the four beasts before it, found in Daniel 7:3. Therefore, the beast of Revelation 13, 1 and 9 is created from the result of the war and commotion among the nations in the same manner as Babylon, Medo-Persia, Grecia, and Rome. Since the evidence revealed by the symbol cannot be questioned, the leopard-like beast assumes the period after the fall of the imperial Rome. Here you are, 1798, 538. Papacy. Corresponding to the feet and toes, iron and clay of the great image in Daniel 2. In other words, the leopard-like beast arrives with a closing period represented by the first stage of the nondescript beast. Closing period 1798 ends the Dark Ages, 1260 years. Here he arrives just at the time when this takes place. While the second stage of the latter papal Rome continues up to 1798. Okay, here you have it right here. He starts in 538. He continues up to 1798. Consequently, the unfolding process of the one overlaps the downward course of the other. To John, the leopard-like beast was shown not in its unfolding process, but rather in its closing act. Okay, now it says, where he said, and his deadly wound was healed. Deadly wound on the seventh head right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Papacy represented by the seventh head. For he saw in the vision the beast after the deadly wound had been healed, for he uses the past tense, was. That's an adverb. But in the Daniel's vision, the work of the nondescript beast was all in the future. Since, said the prophet, and you shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and divided of time. Daniel 7:25. Daniel in the vision viewed the history represented by the beast forward until John, while John looked backwards, or in other words, Daniel saw what the beast was to do, while John was shown what the beast had done. The crown and the horns of the beast having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horn 10 crowns. John said, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded unto the death, for the wounded head represents the papacy, wounded by the Martin Luther, which was originally symbolized by the horned head of the nondescript beast, showing only the papal power and the authority, but the leopard light shows the papacy in her wounded state and the imprisonment of the Pope. Thus the two beasts, the nondescript and the leopard light, for the one reveals the tyrannical authority and the other describes her downfall. For the little horn was to have power and wear out the saints of the Most High for 1260 years. Daniel 7:25. The little horn right here on this beast here, representing the Pope as the papacy. But the leopard like also opened his mouth, and the blasphemy and power was given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months. Revelation 13:6 and 5. For the number of the months is equivalent unto the time and times, and the dividing of time, 1260 days, years of figuring 30 days to the month. With the imprisonment of the Pope Pius VI and his death on August the 19th, 1798, a certain transaction occurred between the nondescript and the leopard-like beast. Nondescript, papacy, leopard-like beast. Signifying that the state is now independent of the church. Okay, when this leopard-like beast emerged, shows that it was independent of the church. He was in charge of the nations of the world and the churches of the world. So now the papacy continues on in the form of the leopard-like beast under a new leadership. The crowns on his horns denotes the fall of Roman monarchy, showing that the 10 kings, which were symbolized by the 10 horns of the nondescript beast, have received their kingdom. Horns and heads all present. Horns and heads all present. 7 heads, 10 horns all present with their independent crowns on, showing that they have independent parliamentary rule in their nations, in their respective nations. No longer controlled by this beast, controlling all of them. One power controlling all these. These are all in charge of their own destiny now. Okay, so now it says horns and heads all present. Horns, heads all present. John saw the beast having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. Let us not overlook the fact that all horns, crowns, and heads are present on the beast. Therefore, whatever meaning is derived by the symbol, all must be into existence at the time that his deadly wound was healed. Had it not been so, the symbols of the heads and the horns would have come one after another, as it was with the little horn and the other 3 that were plucked up from the nondescript beast of the Daniel 7:7. Okay, here's the nondescript beast, Daniel 7:7. Second phase of him. A similar method is observed with the he-goat. After the notable horn representing Alexander was broken off, 4 came up to take its place as the 4 divisions of the Graecia. And after these came up the exceeding great horn, which primarily represented Rome, right here. Daniel 8:8 and 9. Okay, now it says, where systems and governments do not all exist at the same time, the symbols show their consecutive order. Another factor to be noted that every symbol of the entire procession of the beast, point out facts that were to transpire within the period represented by each beast, and not one of them refers to anything in the past, save the hereditary and ancestral characteristics. Therefore, heads or horns have no reference unto anything more before or after the beast represented by the beast. Before or after the period represented by the beast. It is also unnatural for the heads, that's the members of the beast, to exist before or after the beast himself. Therefore, it would be inconsistent to conclude that the horns as well as the heads could denote a consecutive order of the systems, so long as they all appear at the time of the closing act of the beast. The leopard-like beast in his wounded state, here he is in his wounded state right here. Got this wound on his head. Okay. And must be intended to prophetically point out the existing condition with the present civilization. The symbol of the heads. Here we go to the symbol of these 7 heads now. Says, for it is impossible that both horns and heads can stand for the civil governments or king. If the horns represent the political side, then the heads cannot. John says of the leopard-like beast, I saw one of his heads that were wounded unto the death. As the head that was wounded represents a religious system, then all 7 must represent religious organizations, for all heads are alike save the wound. Thus, it is an unmistakable fact that the symbols are intended for the revealing of both the civil and the religious side of the present world. For the crowns represent civil authority as previously explained. Had they been on the heads like on the dragon in Revelation 12:3, it would denote that the churches are using the civil arm of the state to propagate their dogma, as in the days of the imperial and papal Rome, represented by the dragon. But since the crowns are on the horns and the state is independent from the church, it proves the symbol by the crowns to be correct, and the facts brought forth regarding the nature of the symbol cannot be questioned, for it is evident that we have a positive foundation for their application. Consequently, the heads represent Christendom only, for the John says the beast having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horn 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. The fact that there is a name of blasphemy on the heads is an additional proof that they can only represent religious organizations, for blasphemy is equivalent unto hypocrisy, and hypocrisy means an attempt to mix the sacred with the common. But the Yeshua says, I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, Christians, and are not, but are of the synagogue of the Satan, Revelation 2:9, and of whom is Hymenaeus and Alexander, whom I have delivered unto Satan, that they may learn not to blaspheme. 1 Timothy 1:20. Therefore, Son of Man, speak unto the house of the Israel. Okay, now it says, speak unto the house of the Israel. And it says, and say unto them, thus saith Yahweh Elohim, yet in this your fathers have blasphemed me, and that they have committed a trespass against me. Ezekiel 20:27. Your iniquities and the iniquities of your fathers together, saith the Yahweh, which have burned incense upon the mountains and blasphemed me upon the hills. Therefore will I measure their former work into their bosom. Isaiah 65:7. Disobedience unto the word of Elohim is blasphemy.
Naturally, the question arises, who could these blasphemous denominations be? They can certainly be many. Consider the multiplicity of the sects For the prophetic word of the Elohim speaking of this present time says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lust. 2 Peter 3:3. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, and after their own lust they shall heap unto themselves teachers having itching ears. And they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto the fables. 2 Timothy 4:3 and 4. Now these scoffers that the Bible is pointing up here are your former brethren that worship with you in the temple, like the Seventh-day Adventists and the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists that we used to worship with. We're not worshiping with them anymore because they became scoffers and mockers of the truth that we brought to them. Okay. So he says, what has brought the present day confusion? Because they have departed from the sound Bible truth is the only answer that can be given. Is it possible that all can be right and no two believe alike with but one Bible or one gospel, that is the teaching of the plan of salvation through the blood of the everlasting covenant? You have one Yeshua, one hell to shun and one heaven to gain. For Yeshua said, and other sheep I have which are not of this pasture, them also I must bring. And they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold, one shepherd. Well, this one fold and one shepherd you're going to find out in prophecy is antitypical David. But what does it mean by when he says, I have other sheep which are not of this fold? Well, Yeshua is the head of the fold of Judah, the tribe of Judah. So what are you talking about? I have other sheep of other folds, of the other 11 tribes of Israel. First fruits, 144,000. And then you have the second fruits, their brethren, the Gentile world, all over the world. That's the other sheep he has that are not of this fold of Judah. But he has come and set up as his lawgiver and his governmental body. And so now, let's go to the scriptures and read about Yeshua being granted this government when he was born, and it says the government is up on his shoulders. So we go to Isaiah 9, and we read about this government being upon Yeshua's shoulder. And so, when is this to be? This is to be here in the last days, the time that we're in right now. If ever we need Yeshua to come back with that government of heaven upon his shoulders to institute here in the kingdom, everlasting kingdom of heaven here on earth, that's in the throne room of David, with 144,000 executing his judgments and statutes for their visible brethren. Okay. Now Isaiah 9, it says, for unto us a child is born. Now, who is Isaiah talking about? Incidentally, Isaiah would also be of the tribe of Judah. Okay? Now, that's the reason why he said, unto us a child is born. In other words, unto Judah a child is born. The tribe of Judah. Yeshua is this here son that was born, and he came of the descendants of David, of the tribe of Judah, it says. So, the house of Judah, the tribe of Judah, is talking here. For unto us a child is born. Isaiah happens to be the spokesman for the house of Judah. Unto us is born, and a son is given. And the government shall be upon his shoulder. Now, it didn't say the government was going to be upon his shoulders. It's going to be upon his shoulder. if that makes any difference, in a singular form. And his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor. It says the Mighty God here in the pagan vernacular. But when you put the preposition in front of thee, which is a personal possessive article, then you say for. His name is called Wonderful. It's also called Counselor. And he's also called of is a preposition, of the mighty Yahweh Elohim, his Father. Then it says the everlasting Father, follows that. Well, you put the preposition of, and it says of the everlasting Father. There's three deities in the heavens: Father, Son, and the Father's Holy Spirit. Okay. It says, and he's also called the Prince of Peace. Well, all you got to do is go to the Gospels and read about Yahshua, how he said he came out from the Father. And he said, I came in the Father's name. I came to do the will of my Father. I and him and he and me. Okay. It's his power, it's his will, it's his direction, and he's directing his Son to represent him here on earth. So he sends his Son, and he places the government upon his shoulder. Okay. Then it says in verse 7 of Isaiah 9, of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end. Okay, upon the throne of the David. There's no end upon the throne of the David now. And upon his kingdom to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. For the zeal of the Yahshua of the host, who's the host? The 144,000. And also the house of David members will perform this. So it says the zeal of the Yahshua of the host will perform this. So when you put the article after the preposition of, then it says, instead of it's calling it the Lord of hosts, which the pagans listed it here, you call it the Yahshua of the host. And the host is his governmental body, the 144,000. Okay. What's that old saying, you strain at a gnat and swallow a camel? They say, oh, you try to make too much of the scriptures. You add words and you take away words. I said, no, I add words where they're missing. The proper words that should be in there, giving it a clear explanation of what it's really talking about. If you say Lord of hosts, you're not saying anything. Don't tell you anything. But when you say Yahshua of the host, then you're saying something. Because you're using correct syntax. Okay. For the zeal of the Yahshua of the host will perform this. Where it says, verse 8, the Yahshua sent a word into Jacob. Okay. And it hath light upon Israel. Well, you know, that was Jacob's name before he wrestled with the angel all night. And as soon as he got victory, got his sins all pardoned forever. Then the angel told him he had a blessing, and his name would no longer be called Jacob, but be called Israel. So here's Yahshua coming, and he's sending a word into Jacob, meaning the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, Jacob is the father of the 12 sons. That was a type of the 12 tribes of Israel, which was also the fathers of the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, they were called the patriarchs. The patriarchs were a symbol of the 12 tribes of Israel in these last days. That's to come forth and form the 144,000. So Yahshua, being of the tribe of Judah, one of the 12 tribes, he sent a word unto Israel. The 12 tribes. And he said, and all the people shall know, even Ephraim, and the inhabitants of Samaria. Ephraim is the capital for the northern 10 tribes of Israel when Israel was subjugated by Yahweh after Solomon's death. Because of Solomon's terrible sins that he committed, his kingdom was subjugated. There's the two great kingdoms of the 10 tribes of the north. Their headquarters was at Samaria. Ephraim was the head of the 10 tribes, which was the second born of Joseph down in Egypt. But he was given the birthright to be the head, so therefore Ephraim is the head of the 10 tribes that say in their pride and stoutness of the heart, the bricks are falling down, but we will build with hewn stone. The sycamores are cut down, but we will change them into cedars. Okay, so much for that. Now we'll get back to our original reading from the Shepherd Rock Bible 2. It says, I have, which are not of this fold. I should have said, other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring. Okay, and they shall hear my voice. And there shall be one fold and one shepherd. John 10:16. Now, other sheep of other folds is also in all of your Sabbath-keeping world out there. People that of independent Seventh-day Adventists that have left the Adventist church to go form independent bodies that meets and worships in their home. The idea is if they're Sabbath keepers, if they're feast keepers, especially since the sanctuary has been restored and it is required now that all Israel keep the feast day along with the 7-day Sabbath. Okay? So, these are Sabbath keepers because those that refuses to keep the Sabbath, because Yahweh, the Father, he says in Exodus 31, 12 to 18, that the sign between him and his people, Israel, is the 7-day Sabbath. And then he said all of the Sabbath are holy days. Passover, Pentecost, Atonement, Feast of Tabernacle, Feast of the Unleavened Bread. All those holy days, and 18 and the new moons. All of these are additional holy days that goes with your 52 yearly Sabbath. So what do you have? You have Yahweh the Father saying, these Sabbaths are a sign between me and my people. Throughout your generations, that you may know that I'm the Yahweh that does sanctify you. How can he sanctify you if you don't keep his signs and his Sabbaths and enter into his rest? That's the first prerequisite for being sealed and sanctified. That you have to be completely obedient and complicit unto all of the statutes and judgments of the sanctuary, which is the main foundation of the sanctuary, are your holy days. And then the second main foundation is your daily worship at the 9 o'clock and the 3 o'clock. Respectively every day. So, now, it says that such satanic confusion as the one at the present time was about to arise in the days of the Paul. As the Spirit of Elohim moved upon him, he uttered the words with a sharp rebuke. Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Savior, Yeshua the Messiah, that you shall speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be perfectly joined together in the same mind, and in the same judgment. For it hath been declared unto me of you, my brethren, by them which are of the house of Shalom, that there are contentions among you. Now this I pray that every one of you saith, I am of the Paul, and I am of the Apollos, and I am of the Cephas, and I am of the Yeshua. Is the Yeshua divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Or were you baptized in the name of the Paul? 1 Corinthians 1:10 to 13. How great the contrast between the position taken by the Spirit-filled servant of the Elohim and the present-day self-styled apostle. Let's do a little review of what we just read there. I said that naturally the question arises, who could these blasphemous denominations be? There can certainly be many. Consider the multiplicity of the sects. The prophetic word of the Elohim speaking of this present time said, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lust. 2 Peter 3:3. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine. Now, who could this be talking about? It's talking about somebody that up to that point had endured sound doctrine, and the only one that understands sound doctrine is the house of Israel. Okay? So in this case, it would be the Seventh-day Adventists and the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists that at one time understood sound doctrine, because they both had the former and the latter rain given unto them. Okay? So, we're narrowing it down now. Who is this talking about? It's talking about those that used to endure sound doctrine. But it says, but after their own lust they shall heap unto themselves teachers, having itching ears. And they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. 2 Timothy 4:3 and 4. Isn't that exactly what the Seventh-day Adventist Church has done? Isn't there a multiplicity of Adventist ministers that have gone out and started their own independent ministry? Well, you got all kinds of them. I can remember over 50 years ago. I can remember Voice of Prophecy, It Is Written, Faith for the Day, Amazing Facts, just to name a few of the many Adventist factions that have broken off and started their own independent ministries, and they gather people to them that pays tithes and offerings to them and supports their ministry, like H.M.S. Richard did. He went and started the Voice of Prophecy there in the 30s, and as long as though he admonished his people to pay their tithes to the Adventist Church, because he got support also from the Adventist Church to do the Voice of Prophecy. Now, why did they start the Voice of Prophecy there in the 1930s with an Adventist minister, H.M.S. Richard? Because the Voice of Prophecy was being sounded by the V.T. Harloff, the shepherd rod, that the Adventists had rejected. So they rejected his Voice of Prophecy that brought forth these inspired charts, graphically displaying prophecy unfolding and giving a detailed information on what each one of these little symbols on each one of these beasts represents, like the 10 horns, the 10 crowns, 7 heads representing all churches. This beast here is a composite of these 4 right here. That's what V.T. Harloff was doing. He was a Voice of Prophecy, graphically depicting prophecy unfolding through the pictorial form. And I've sent those Jesuits that was running the Adventist Church at that time. General Conference President on down, and his officers under him. That was over all of the facilities of the Adventist Church all over the world at that time. So they just employed their many ministers to go out and teach the Adventist version of the Spirit of Prophecy. And they raised up a man that could articulate that, and that's H.M.S. Richard Sr. Okay? They already raised up a man, V.T. Harloff, and V.T. Harloff is the one that today his prophetic charts are now being sounded again, not only to the Adventist world, but to the whole world now, to the whole Adventist world all over the world, first and foremost, and with the depicting and explaining these here prophecy and symbols and types and antitype and allegories and parables. And not only the remnant will come forth, the Seventh-day Adventist, But it will also mean that their brethren also will come forth. Okay, when it come time to come into the everlasting kingdom and forever to be at peace and at rest. Okay, and now it says that knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers. So who are these scoffers? Those that refuse to endure sound doctrine anymore. That was the Adventists and the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists, the Shepherd's Rod. They turn into being scoffers, walking after their own lust. Isn't that what the Adventists do today? They walk after their own lust. Well, they even set up a section of the Adventist church for the homosexuals, for the pedophiles. And they have homosexual ministers in the Adventist church. And they want to have the benefits that is given out by the Adventist church. They want to be recognized as a bona fide branch of the Seventh-day Adventist church. How horrible can you get for the house of Israel? Okay, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers walking after their own lust, 2 Peter 3:3. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine. When the house of Israel won't endure sound doctrine anymore. They'd be like they were back to Sodom and Gomorrah again. Go to Revelation chapter 11, you read all about it in these last days. But after their own lust they shall heap unto themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and they shall be turned unto the fables. 2 Timothy 4:3 and 4. Who has wrought the present day confusion? Because they have departed from the sound Bible truth is the only answer that can be given. Okay? So who's departed from the sound Bible truth? None other but your Adventists. They're the ones that had the most sound Bible truth ever since 1844. Is it possible that all can be right when no two beliefs alike in the Adventist church or the Davidian Adventists, but with one Bible, one gospel, that is the teaching of the plan of salvation for the brother of the everlasting covenant, one hell to shun and one heaven to gain? I should have said, and other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. John 10:16. Now, I had covered this once before, but we're doing a little review, and I wanted to point out to you that there are many people that are members of other denominations out in the world. But they're of the bloodline of Israel. They're brethren to the first fruits, 144,000. So they're going to come one day. Because it says right there in the prophecy of Micah, it says that there is a remnant of Yahweh's people among many people and nations. And we'll turn to Micah 5, and we'll say, let's read this verse 5, and 6 and 7. And this man shall be the peace when the Assyrian shall come into our land. Okay, and when he shall tread in our palaces, then shall we raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. Okay, 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. Who are your 7 shepherds? Your 7 churches of Asia, the house of Israel. Okay. Now who is that 8th principal man? That's David, the house of David. He comes at the end of the 7 churches, Laodicea. Okay? And that's called Mount Zion, the 12th hour that we're in right now, and the house of David is his spokesman is speaking to you right now. 8 principal men. Now David literally was born as the 8th son under Jesse, his father. Okay? So now, when we look at the chart that we're so familiar with, I guess it would be this one right here, the 7 churches. Laodicea, Seventh-day Adventist, 1844. Now she produces the House of David. Took her 158 years to do it, from 1844 to 2002, but it happened. And that's past history, and prophecy now has made its fulfillment on that. Okay. Now David is in the 12th hour, prophetically, and that's right here, between 12 and 1. The House of David now is operating. See that number 8 right there, between 12 and 1? Number 7 here, the Seventh-day Adventist movement from 1844 to 2002. There you have it. Okay, that's of the 7th order. David, that emerges from the Seventh-day Adventist Church as the 5th group of laborers. The Adventists were the 4th group of laborers. David is the 5th group of laborers, House of David, in the 12th hour. Number 8, New Order. Okay. And now, how interesting, to say the least. So it says, and there shall be one foal and one shepherd. Okay. Now, it says here in Micah 5, and I want to finish reading to you. And it says, and they shall waste the land of Assyria. This is verse 6. With the sword, and the land of Nimrod, and the entrances thereof. Thus shall he deliver us from the Assyrian, when he cometh into our land, and when he treadeth within our borders. And the remnant of the Jacob shall be in the midst of many people. Now the remnant of Jacob is your 144,000. As they do from the Yeshua, the Son, as the showers upon the grass, that tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the sons of men. And the remnant of the Jacob, 12 tribes, shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people. Why are they among the Gentiles? Because they've got Gentile brethren that are kinfolks to them. They've got to bring them also. But this remnant that's among them has been sanctified by obedience to the truth, and especially keeping all of Yahweh's holy days, because the sign between him and his people, they've been sanctified by it. And so what does that tell you? So it says, and the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts. Now the lion of the tribe of Judah, that's what Yeshua represents. The tribe of Judah is represented by the symbol of the lion. It says, a lion among the beasts. So the tribe of Judah is among the 12 tribes. Of the forest as a young lion among the flocks of the sheep, the 12 tribes, who if he goes through both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. This is the house of Judah judging his brethren. Okay. So now we got about a couple minutes left before we close this service. So it says that well, let's just go read about this one shepherd that we talked about. There's going to be this one shepherd, you know, that's going to lead them and feed them. Let's go to Amos chapter 9, and we'll wrap it up with that. Okay, it says, this is prophecy for this hour, the 12th hour we're in right now. Behold, verse 8. Behold, the eyes of the Yeshua, our Savior, that's the Son, are upon the sinful kingdom. What kingdom is that? The sinful kingdom of Judah, the one that he is the king over, first and foremost. And I will destroy it from off the face of the earth. Well, where was that at? The sinful kingdom of Judah that emerged in our day was at Gilead Center, where I was with for 33 years, from 1970 to 2003. Saving that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, the David, Judah, the lawgiver, saith to Yeshua, for lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. all the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David, that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins. And I will build it as in the days of the old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom, and of all the heathen which are called by my name, saith the Yahshua that doeth this. Behold, the days come, saith the Yahshua. That's in these last days, between the 12th hour and the last hour. That, saith the Yahshua, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the reaper of grapes him that soweth seed, and the mountains shall drop down sweet wine. There's these sanctified congregations now, and all the hills shall melt. Okay. And I will bring again the captivity of my people of Israel, and they shall build their waste cities, and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards, and shall drink the wine thereof. They shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them, and I will plant them upon their land, and they shall be and no more be pulled up out of their land which I have given them, said the Yahshua, my Savior. This brings in verse 13, Sergeant Contest, is the 11th hour call. We're going to close the service now with a song entitled Higher Ground. I'm pressing on the upward way, new heights I'm gaining every day, still praying us onward bound. You'll plant my feet on higher ground. You'll lift me up and let me stand. My faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. You'll plant my feet on higher ground. My heart has no desire to stay, but doubts arise and fears dismay. Though some may dwell where these abound, I pray my aim is higher ground. Now lift me up and let me stand, my faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. Now plant my feet on higher ground. I want to live above the world, though Satan's dart at me are hurled. For faith has caught the joyful sound, the song of saints on higher ground. Now lift me up and let me stand, my faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. Now plant my feet on higher ground. I want to scale the utmost high and catch a gleam of glory bright. But still I pray till heaven I find, that shall lead me on to higher ground. Now lift me up and let me stand, my faith on heaven's tableland, a higher plane than I have found. You'll plant my feet on